Hello, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. I'm Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America about? You see, American identity is about freedom, the opportunity for a better life, and the pursuit of happiness. Welcome to Extraordinary America. Hello, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Naresh Vissa. Naresh is the founder and CEO of Krish Media and Marketing, a full-service e-commerce technology, development, online and digital media and marketing agency and solutions provider. He has worked with CNN Radio, Clear Channel Communications, JP Morgan, Chase, Everbank, the Institute for Energy Research, Houston Rockets, Houston Astros, the American Junior Golf Association, Agora Financial, Agora Publishing, Stansberry Research, and Trade Stops. He is the #1 best-selling author of 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip Your Business into Shape and Dominate Your Competition, Podcastnomics, the Book of Podcasting to Make You Millions, The New PR, 21st Century Public Relations Strategies and Resources to Reach Millions, Trump Book, How Digital Liberals Silenced a Nation into Making America Hate Again, and the new book, From Nobody to Best-Selling Author, How to Write, Publish, and Market Your Book. He is the co-host of the Work From Home show. He has a master's degree from Duke's University Fuqua School of Business and has been featured on USA Today, Yahoo, Bloomberg, MSNBC, Huffington Post, Business Week, MSN Money, Business Insider, India Today, Hindustan Times, and other domestic and international media outlets. He's an extraordinary American, and I'm honored to have him on the show. Naresh, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Naresh, so much for taking the time to do this podcast with me. I'm really honored to have you on the show.
Well, it's an honor to be on here, and I'm looking forward to talking about some awesome topics that make America great.
Yeah, so Naresh, I wanted to understand. So I know you're into entrepreneurship, business, you're into advertisement and marketing. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
My background, formally, if I were to give you my CV or my resume and you looked at my education, my background started out in public communications, broadcast and digital journalism, finance, accounting, management, and business. Those 6 areas I have formal training and degrees in undergraduate and masters. Now, my background, I got experience working, like you said in the intro, at places like CNN Radio, Clear Channel Communications, Wall Street, JP Morgan, Chase, and I was able to combine my media and business background to work in financial marketing for a financial marketing company where I actually started their financial media arm or their media arm. They did a lot of hack marketing, a lot of online and digital marketing, but not a whole lot of media, whether it was social media or digital media. And this was 12, 13 years ago. Yeah, actually 13, 14 years ago. That introduced me to technology and to marketing. I did not have a degree in marketing. I didn't have any experience working as a marketer, but this company was a financial marketing company. I learned the ins and outs of marketing, not just financial market, but of marketing and of technology because I had a fear of technology before I worked at that company. And now I run a company called Krish Media and Marketing, which is really a tech company. It's a digital media and marketing agency. After getting experience working at that company for about 3 years, I left the company, started Krish Media and Marketing in 2013. So we're coming up on 12 years that I've been running Krish Media and Marketing. And in 2017, I became a real estate investor on the side. And how did I do that? Because somebody who actually worked for me started investing in real estate. And I said, hey, if they're doing it, I should do it too. Krish Media and Marketing was working with a lot of, in fact, its first new client in 2013 was a real estate company. So I had been doing work in the real estate space, but on the back end, now it was time to do work on the front end. In 2017, I started a company called Krish Capital, which is a real estate sales, marketing, and investment company. And we can also call it a coaching company. So I help promote not just residential properties, but also invest in it myself. So I own properties throughout the southeastern United States. And I also help people invest in real estate. So students, and it's completely free of charge, students can come to me and say, hey, like, I want to invest in real estate. How can I do it? And I will walk them through the process, guide them, introduce them to people all around the country and help them invest. It's called being a laptop landlord. So again, it's a little bit of a tech element where you can literally sit behind your laptop and buy properties and rent them out and collect cash flow every month.
I mean, that's like the ideal lifestyle for most people if they know how to do it, right?
It is the ideal lifestyle, and I think part of the reason why I learned how to do it is because when I was very young in my teens, I was 16 years old when I got my first job, or you can call it an internship. It was paid during the summer. Most of my peers in school were working at restaurants, 7-Elevens, golf courses, lifeguarding at swimming pools. I got a actual white collar job for almost 3 months. Well, it was about a 2 month job that I had at this marketing company. And that's when I realized when I was 16 years old that, hey, I can actually get a lot of work done behind a computer. So once I got my own laptop, I started being more entrepreneurial. And I think this next generation of kids, they're going to get it. I mean, when I was 6 years old, there really wasn't, there was a laptop, but nobody had them when I was 6 years old. Now, today, you have 2 year olds using iPads. So I think in my generation, this was unheard of, but in this next generation, I think they'll be able to get ahead of the curve at a far earlier age, and there are just so many opportunities moving forward. It was unheard of for a teenager to be making money behind a computer. Now, 13, 14 year olds can do that.
Yeah, I mean, like technology is just advancing at such a rapid rate because, like, now just in the last few years, you have ChatGPT, you have the rise of AI, and that's going to just change everything. Like, the 21st century is going to be nothing like the 20th century, you know?
Well, already the 21st century is nothing like the 20th century, and there are actual inventions. So, like right next to me, right here, is the iPhone, and the iPhone came out in 2008. It didn't get massively adopted until about 2010, and then it just took off from there. So we didn't have an iPhone, we didn't have smartphones in the 20th century, and not even in the 90s did we have these devices. I'm pro these. They certainly come with their caveats. My kids, for example, I sold all our iPads and uh, don't let them use my phone at all. Now other family members let them use it all day. But they come with their drawbacks, don't get me wrong, but I'm very pro technology. I find this technology to be efficient. My personality is such that it's good for me, and I know there are many other people where these devices are bad, but it's good for me, and I think people can be more efficient. They can work from home more, they can stay connected more, and actually stay connected to their work more. And I think that's a good thing.
So, Naresh, from like your perspective, like from the inception of when you started your career to like right now, like in your entrepreneurial journey, like what was the strategic goal and vision that you had, starting from when you first started doing business to like where you are right now?
The goal was to make a living, to be quite frank, to make a living and to make a good living, and then to just grow and grow and grow. Look, I have a passion. If people don't have a passion for something and they're doing that something, they're not going to do very well at it. I've
Mhm.
always had a passion for problem solving when it comes to business. So actually, I was very close to becoming a management consultant and basically being a full-time problem solver on Wall Street for a large consulting arm. And I've always just had that in me. And even today, that's what gets me up in the morning, puts me in front of the computer. It's what drives me. I enjoy problem solving and I enjoy helping clients. I enjoy that rush. In the corporate world, you don't necessarily get that because the corporate world is a very 9 to 5 type of structure where if you are solving a problem, there are probably 10 people above you who are also trying to solve that problem. So whatever solutions you have just won't even be looked at. So I've been through that. I've seen that in the corporate world, and that's why I like being on my own. So because I am responsible for my successes and my failures. So right now, there's quite a bit of real estate activity and investment activity to where my companies have done quite well on the marketing side and on the sales side. So that's what drives me. That's why I got into why I wanted to start do my own thing and start my own thing.
So, Naresh, the way like you achieved so much success in like within like a relatively few years of time, whereas like there are other people that could go like decades without achieving the same level of success. So it's obviously like a mindset and motivational factor thing. So from your perspective, what was like the motivational drive and the ultimate mind hack or mindset that you had that puts you apart from somebody that would try their hardest and not achieve success?
A few things. So many people think that the motivating factor is money. And I'll tell you what, if you're a young person listening to this, or just any person listening to this, and you think that just starting a business is going to make you a lot of money, that's not true at all. In fact, the statistics show that more than 90% of businesses fail within 4 years, and
Mhm.
that the business that do make it after 4 years, they're what are called lifestyle businesses. They're businesses that pay the bills, that you would have otherwise, the amount of money you're making is what you probably would have otherwise gotten had you been working in a full-time job. So the fact of the matter is, starting a business does not mean you're going to become the next Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk. And you'll quickly, the reason why these companies shut down within 4 years is because these founders think they're going to get so wealthy, and they're like living like paupers, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're like, this is not what I signed up for. It was much better having a job where I knew exactly what I was making and how much money would be coming in. So that actually was not a motivating factor. The biggest motivating factor to me, I already brought up one, which is actually providing value. I brought up the problem solving part. That's actually providing value. That's actually finding meaning and purpose in your work. So that's the first thing. If you find purpose and meaning in something that you like doing, turn it into a job because you're going to be very good at it. So the first thing is is purpose. The second thing is meaning. The third thing is providing value. The fourth thing is problem solving. And the fifth thing, which is probably the most important thing, the most important quality of why people go into business for themselves. And it's the purpose of your show. It's freedom. It's not just financial freedom, because like I said, the financial side may not even be that great. It's the freedom of schedule, the freedom to where I can go out in the middle of the day if I have to. I can get on an airplane on a Wednesday afternoon and turn off all my devices for 4 or 5 hours and still get my work done later that night. It's that type of freedom to where I have two very young kids. I can take care of them. In fact, right after this interview, I'm going to go pick up my older one from school. It's the freedom to coach their baseball teams, or teach them how to ride a bike, or coach them in tennis or whatever, to teach them math or reading or whatnot. This aspect. Now, when I got started, I was only 24 years old. It was a different type of freedom back then. When I was 24, I still would have given the same answer. However, the freedom was different. It was, the freedom to be able to go to the gym every day, and the freedom to be able to sleep really late at night and not have to worry about waking up early in the morning. I could move my meetings to the afternoon. So freedom is the biggest reason, and freedom comes in many different aspects.
No, I mean I totally agree. And one thing I wanted to also take note of was that you're talking about path and purpose. A lot of people they don't know what their path and purpose is in today's world. Like they just go about their life. They're following other people's path and purpose, but they don't tend to know what is their mission in life or what are they born for. And yeah.
I know people my age. I'm in my mid 30s, and I know people in fact, a friend of mine just called me the other day, and he said, "Man, I really want this freedom lifestyle, and like I really want it, but I don't know how to get it. I don't know what to do." And the guy has an excellent job at a very well-known tech company. Not even tech, it's a very well-known company that most people in this country have heard of. Very good job. And he told me that he basically wants to leave and he wants to have more freedom. And my response to that is, number one, this individual, when I asked him, okay, well, what do you want to do? He said he didn't know. He just wants freedom. And that's the first, I knew when I was 23 years old, slightly before turning 24, I knew that online and digital media and marketing was a skill set that I could monetize, that where I could get clients and monetize. I knew it. I didn't know that I would still be around today at the level that I'm around today 13 years later, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could get by for 4 or 5 years. Then when I discovered real estate in 2017, I really developed, because I had a background in finance, and I really developed a passion for real estate. And that those two, online and digital media marketing, I clump that into one bucket, and I clump real estate into another bucket. Those were the two areas, and even within real estate, is residential real estate. Those were the two areas that I felt I should only focus on those two areas and pursue those two areas. And even within those two areas, there's so many different branches. So I started out with one branch. So I actually only started out on the online and digital media side. Then I added the marketing side. Then within marketing, I added affiliate. There were these little branches where you can basically start businesses or add on to your own business. On the real estate side, it's the same thing where I started out as a real estate marketer. Then I became a real estate investor. Then I became a real estate investment coach. Then I became a real estate agent doing traditional real estate, which I actually don't do, but I have the license and I do just not traditionally. So there are many different. You need to identify the 1 to 2 buckets that you enjoy that you're good at, and only pursue that. I see too many people who they have some good tech job, they don't like it, they're doing IT or something, and then they quit and then they become a real estate agent. Complete career change, or they quit and they open up a restaurant. That's a little more. I've never done something like that. I stick to what I know. I don't take that level of risk because when you again, I keep repeating this. When you do something that you're good at, when you do something that you like, those two things, you're good at it and you like it, you're going to do well at it, and the learning curve is much shorter.
So Naresh, the part of like doing business is also taking risk, and not just risk, calculated risk. So, and I know you've taken a lot of risks in your life regarding like doing business because you have to, right? Just part of it. So, how do you go about calculating risk and processing the ROI and like and the risk reward ratio?
Well, when you bring up ROI, for example, in real estate, I can actually quantify all that information. There are pro formas that I can create or pro formas that are given to you. I can actually see the data in front of me. Now, with that being said, there's risk that doesn't show up on a pro forma. There's absolutely risk. And
Mhm.
look, I like from my mid 20s really or late 20s, I like as little risk as possible. So that's why I say do something. When I left my full-time job, so here's something to talk about to mitigate risk. I didn't leave my full-time job to start a business. I actually started a side hustle that was never meant to become a business. So it was a side hustle that I'd been running for 4 years. And I was just doing stuff on the side. Even when I was working full time, I was doing stuff on the side to make some extra income. So by the time I built that side hustle up, I left my full time job. It's like I gave myself a 20% raise. That's legitimately when I left the full time job, went to my side hustle. It was actually a 20% raise. And except now I didn't really have a boss or like a boss on paper
Yeah.
and I could work from home. So the answer to your question is how did I mitigate risk there? Well, it was a side hustle that mitigated the risk. If I didn't have that side hustle and I quit my job and I said I'm going to pursue this, that's super risky. When I started my real estate business in 2017, that was a side hustle. So my side hustle turned into a full-time job with the media and marketing company. Then I started this real estate side hustle in 2017. I propped it up, and because of inflation and the asset values of homes going up, that side hustle has basically now 5 or 7 years later has taken care of my retirement, like my wife and I, like our retirement. And that's like we're obviously saving for retirement on top of that, but in a matter of 7 years, that's what that undertaking has done. It's taken care of our retirement when we're 70 plus years old. So what I'm saying there is everyone's different. In my case, my side hustle became my full-time thing. Then I started another side hustle, and that side hustle has now, I'm not anywhere close to being done with it. I'm still working on that business, but it's gotten to the point where my retirement's taken care of.
Wow, Naresh, like the way you're the way you properly logically deduce it, it's basically the essence of how like business is done. It's like you're thinking in a certain way, and that's what most people need to do. But like I think a lot of people they end up having roadblocks, like they when they're doing business and they in order to do a risk management thing, they don't end up succeeding in that way. So from your perspective, what are the biggest roadblocks you think that entrepreneurs and business people have in attaining financial freedom the way you did?
This This ties into risk again because most people, the biggest roadblock is just fear. The fear of the uncertainty, the fear of if I start buying real estate, is somebody going to burn it? And look, again, I'm very anti-risk. And I remember when I started buying up properties, people were like, "You're a risk taker." And I didn't view it that way. I actually viewed it as like almost no risk buying these properties. And the reason why I viewed it as no risk is because I educated myself. I used to be one of those people, by the way. I used to think, these people buying real estate, it's so risky. These houses are so expensive. And, what if a tenant trashes the house or like, it just seems very daunting. But then once you really learn about something, it can be real estate, it can be tech, it can be restaurant business, doesn't matter what. You learn the ins and outs, and then you realize, hey, there's actually no risk. Very, very little risk. In my case with real estate, for example, okay, let's start with Krish Media Marketing. In the case with Krish Media Marketing, I knew I was in my mid 20s. I knew if this fails, I can always go back and get a full-time job. I knew that because I had people recruiting me to work for them. I had former employers. I had current clients. Even I have current clients today, companies who are like, come work for me. So I know that's always an option. It still is today. That's always an option that I can always go back and work full-time job.
Mhm.
So that mitigates any risk. If you just know, hey, I'm going to start this business, but if I fail, I can just go back and work a regular corporate job. Then that takes away the roadblocks that hold you back. In the case of my real estate business, I actually had to do the research and get down to the nitty gritty of the numbers and of home insurance and all these factors that hold people back from buying houses. It's, interest that you have to pay on a mortgage, that's extra money. And if something breaks, you have to fix it and you could get a bad tenant. So I understood all these risks and I realized, hey, a mortgage is actually an asset because the mortgage company is the one taking on 80% of the risk because you're
Mhm.
putting 20% down on a home usually. The mortgage company is taking on 80% of the risk and they want to protect their investment even more than I want to protect my investment. So they make me get the home insurance and the flood insurance and they want me to succeed as an investor. So when I understood that basic concept, like somebody else is paying for this house really, then they're the ones taking on the risk, not me. And when I understood that, they made me get this home insurance and I had a good property manager. And then I realized there's really no risk. If a hurricane comes and destroys a property, the home insurance will pay for it. If something bad happens to the house, the home insurance will pay for it. So then it was a matter of, okay, well, how do I make sure I don't have a bad tenant? Well, okay, be strict in who you allow to live in your properties. Have high credit score requirements. Have annual inspections where the property manager goes in and inspects a property and will fix whatever needs to be fixed every year, no questions asked. That's how you mitigate the risk. It requires a little bit of investment and spending money, but you mitigate risk that way. And so for people listening, the question is about roadblocks. How do you overcome these roadblocks? It's you need to mentally feel prepared and mentally your mind needs to be clear of what's the worst that can happen. Oh, well, if the worst does happen, this is how I can actually come out ahead. You need to ask yourself all those questions. And then you realize, hey, there's actually not a lot of risk.
So, Naresh, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, which is connected to the concept of risk, is related to inflation and debt. So, like in the last few years, a lot of people had to suffer through inflation. But from a businessman's perspective, if you wanted to do a business, and how would you go about looking at real estate, debt, and inflation in terms of increasing your assets?
I bought my properties, all my real estate assets before 2021. The last property I bought was in 2020. If you're a real estate investor and you bought property before 2021, you know that today you're sitting on property that is worth about at least 50% more than what you paid for it, depending on when you bought. Now, I bought mine in 2017. If you bought a property in, let's say, 2010, you're up at least 100%, at least, if not 150%. So why is that? It's because we've gone through an inflationary cycle from 2021 to until earlier this year. We were in an inflationary cycle. I have not bought real estate since then, not because of the inflation, not because of the appreciating property values, but because I'm saving up for my next property, which is going to be a lot more expensive if you want to call it that. It's going to cost a lot more. So I am going to be buying my next property within the next 3, 4 years. But the reason why I haven't bought since then is because I'm saving up for it. Now, is it a good time to buy real estate, for example? Right now, is it a good time to start a business right now? Your question deals directly with inflation. And I'm here to tell you that the inflation rate has come down. Today it's 2.4%. Next week, there's statistics that are going to be published, and the Federal Reserve is going to reach its 2% rate, I think, by the end of this year. I think by mid-December, or sorry, by not this year, but maybe February or March. By February or March, we're going to see 2% inflation. With starting a business, you have to, I brought up pro formas, for example, in real estate. You have to look at the numbers that take all the costs into account. You can't just think, oh, I know somebody who started a McDonald's and they're doing really well, so I'm going to start a McDonald's too. That doesn't work because that person, just like I bought my real estate pre 2021, that person bought their McDonald's like in the 1980s. That's why they're up times 20 on their investment. So the bottom line is get into a field, get into a business that's inflation proof, that can withstand inflation, that's been around for a very long time, and that you think will be even after you pass away. McDonald's, for example, yes, it is expensive right now, but the fact of the matter is McDonald's is going to be around, I think, 300 years from now. It's not going anywhere. So you need to think, you can't just jump into any business and think that it's going to do well. You have to think, has it done well previously, and is it going to continue to do well? Real estate, marketing, those have done well through the beginning of humankind, since the beginning of humankind. Real estate has been around. Marketing has always been a very important concept and idea. So that's how I pick those two, and other people need to think that way also.
No, totally. You have to like have a greater understanding of like which business you're going into, and especially during these times, you know. So, Naresh, what is the biggest lesson you have understood during your entire career? Like a bit, a one, well, like if you had to choose one insight regarding business and entrepreneurship in life, what would that be?
A few things. So number one, do not hold off or do not be cheap and put off getting a lawyer and an accountant. Both of those things. When you start your business, have somebody who doesn't have to be full time, obviously, but somebody who can help guide you on the accounting side, the business structure, the tax filings, the bookkeeping. You really want to do that because if you make a mistake, it's expensive. Number two, legal. Take legal stuff seriously. If you sign a contract, get a lawyer to read over it. If you're making someone else sign a contract, don't put together your own contract. If you put together your own contract, get a lawyer to edit it and put it together properly because disagreements will happen. And when disagreements happen, the law, all they have to look back on is what's written, what was signed in writing. So those things are incredibly, incredibly important. Then I'll also talk about the most important, the most important uh, attributes you need in today's economy, inflationary economy, and moving forward. Number one is skills. Number two is value creation. Number three is focus. Number four is leverage. And number five, well, there's more actually. So number five is technology. Number six is reading. Number seven is writing. Number eight is speaking. Those eight fact, and I can go into each one of those eight things. Maybe you want to pick a few of them, but those eight attributes, if you can master all eight, you're always going to be, so no matter what you do, whether you go into medicine or accounting or law, if you can do all eight, you're going to be fine.
That that is that is awesome, Naresh. I mean, I'm so glad that you're actually able to like precisely tell all these different points because a lot of people they need to know in a very deductive way how they should go about doing it. Because a lot of people in today's world like they want to start a business, but they don't know where to start, you know?
Yeah, and I'll repeat those again, especially when it comes to business. You want to start a business? Number one, you need to focus. You need to focus on the business and you need to focus on that core value that the business provides. I see so many businesses focusing on all these different areas that don't really contribute to that bottom line. There's this Pareto principle, 80-20 rule that says 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients or customers. 80% of your output, your positive output, comes from 20% of the work that you actually do on something. The rest of the 80% of the work you're doing is actually unnecessary. Focus on what matters. So focus, leverage. Leverage means when you know you're good, when you're building yourself up, then people pay you accordingly. And they come to you rather than you going door to door begging for their business. That's leverage. Value creation. You want to start a business? Well, what value can you provide? If I'm just some random guy, you start a business, pitch it to me. Tell me why I need this product or this service. Value creation. Four, ideas. Be an idea machine. Always be thinking. Always be reading. Reading is, for me, reading and listening to podcasts, watching documentaries, watching good stuff. You get a lot of ideas. Number five, skills. You need the skills. And I brought up what those skills are: reading, writing, speaking, technology. Reading, writing, speaking, pretty self explanatory. Technology means know how to use today's. In fact, I'm constantly adapting. Even though I work in tech, there are all these new things coming out, new programs, new softwares, new apps on the phone, new apps on the iPad. You should always be adapting and learning these new things and not say, oh, I found my niche and therefore I don't need to learn how to do TikTok anymore. I don't need to learn how to use GPT and all this. So you should always be learning and
Self-improvement.
adapting.
No, yeah, basically self-improvement.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's you have to adapt and you have to always self-improve. That's one of the things that is the main thing about entrepreneurship is the people that are most successful, they have a constant need to learn and improve over a period of time, no matter like how good they get, you know?
You want to constantly be improving there. That should be throughout. In fact, I even have like a parent who just realized in her, oh, like I can be improving my kid. There's so much more to learn. It doesn't end. Learning never stops.
So Naresh, on another note, I wanted to ask you about like America. You know, like they say that America is the land of the free and the place where dreams are made. Like, do you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely, I agree with that. I still believe that, and the proof is, I don't even think this is a belief. Politically, there's a reason why all these undocumented illegals are coming to this country and why they're not going to other. They can go anywhere they want. There are other countries that have open borders. There's a reason why they want to come to the United States and not to these other countries. And it's because the United States is still the greatest. Until those people stop trying to come here, they come here because they know that they'll be better off here and that their children will be better off here. So, I mean, that's a bad thing, by the way. Like, I 100% believe in closed borders and people coming here should be vetted and should be good people and add a lot of value here. But the point is, people still around the world want to come to the United States because it is still the top destination for tourists. It's still the largest global economy in the world. Times, I mean, it's like almost two times bigger than the next largest global economy. We have China, we have India, and we have Germany and UK and Japan, a few other countries, but nobody comes even close to the US economy. Uh, so, yes, the US economy is still the greatest. Is it the freest? There's always room for improvement. Our US Constitution, I think, is the greatest guarantor of freedoms in US history. You're not going to find any other constitution that guarantees people's rights, whether you're a man or a woman or a transgender or a child. You have the greatest rights because of that US Constitution. And the system is set up such that if those rights are taken away, you can fight back.
No, I mean I agree as well because I was originally like I was born in India, but then I came here as a naturalized citizen, and it's just the way people think and act here is just on another level. You know, there's just like a sense of like hospitality, and then there's a sense of like you can do whatever you want as long as you put the hard work in it.
Yes, there and I've learned this is why I'm very optimistic about this country and for our kids' future because where you are, you said you're from India, and I feel like in India, you don't have that level of freedom. You almost kind of have to be born into a certain family or get a certain degree or go to a certain school in order to really make it. It's not as, I don't want to say as easy, but it's not as easy as it is here, where you actually don't even have to go to school. You don't, all you really need is a focus on hard work and a little bit of smarts and dedication, perseverance, and you can do really well. And I've seen this. I didn't know this growing up because my parents are also from India and they had that Indian mindset. And I'm not saying education is bad. Education is very good. The more educated you are, the better you're going to do. But the wealthiest people I know didn't even go to college here in the United States. And they found something that they were really good. We talked about this throughout the episode. They found something that they were really good at, and they either started a business and did really well in that business, from real estate to fixing fences to contracting, home contracting to even some more educated fields like technology, starting an online store, selling things online. But then even in the corporate world, it's the same thing where I know people who did not get good test scores, who did not do well in school. They were C students, C minus students, and they got their first job at some corporation. It could even be a Starbucks or a McDonald's or an Apple store. I legitimately know people who started out working at the Apple store helping people unlock their phones because they forgot their password on their phone.
Naresh, that was the
And
biggest revelation I had when I first came here. Because all of my like I used to get really good grades in my school, and then when I came to America, I was like, oh wow, grades don't mean anything. Like it's about whether you can start a business and be successful. It was just completely like one of those mind-blowing shifts in my mind, right? Because over there it was like school was very was much prioritized. Like in order to get a good job, you need to get good grades and all
yep.
that stuff. But no, in order to make money, you just have to think and act in a certain way. And that's one of the things I realized.
Well, this Apple Store example, well, I know people who started off at an Apple Store when they were 22, 23 years old. And you fast forward 12 years later, now they work in Apple corporate, making $200,000 plus a year. So you start out making, back then it was, today I think the Apple Store pays $20 an hour.
Mhm.
So you start, which is decent. You start out making $20 an hour today, but you, like I said, you dedication, perseverance, you work your way up, and you end up at Apple corporate in Cupertino, California, and now you got a corporate job. And that's the beauty of this country, where you don't have to go to that really nice, shiny school. You don't have to have that great SAT score. You can start out flipping burgers at McDonald's. Again, I know people who this happened to, whether it was Chipotle or McDonald's. They did well. They became a store manager and they're making $100,000 plus a year with great benefits, great everything. And these are people who don't have college degrees.
Mhm.
In this country, there's really no excuse. And this is why when I see on unemployment or welfare, and they've been on it for a long time. Like pretty much they're addicted to it. This is why I don't. I'm like, dude, this is America. Like you can, especially if you're young, like the sky is the limit. You might have to start down, but you can work your way up and do very well, live a very, very good life.
No, yeah, totally. It's one of the things that I realized when I came here is like it's just there's the freedom of you can do whatever you want. Like if you work hard enough, you can succeed. And then there's just the laws are designed in such a way that it's more pro business compared to other parts of the world.
Well, the United States was meant to be a meritocracy. I'm all for meritocracy. If you're good at what you do, whether it's you start your own business, if you're good, it's going to do well. If you're working a job and you're good at your job, you're going to get promoted and you will keep getting promoted. So you will be rewarded regardless of race or color or gender or sexuality or whatnot. In a meritocracy, which is what the United States was founded, the principles it was founded on, people are judged by, if you want to call it, the content of their character, and they should be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin or their religion or their race or any of those other things.
No, I totally agree. And that's what makes it so extraordinary, you know? And Naresh, I also wanted to ask you, so from your perspective, what is the biggest hurdle that Americans face when it comes to living the American dream and how would they overcome it?
There are a couple of hurdles. I think number one is the, unfortunately, I think a lot of the dogma that goes around is just false. So when I say dogma, the U.S. education system, for example, the public education system is meant to create factory workers. It's based on an old Prussian concept where you get people to become good listeners and to do as they're told. That's how the US education system is right now. And if you grow up in that education system, you're wired to be told what to do and to do that one thing. So it's factory worker, basically. That's how the education system was created. So you're graduating many people from college who don't develop these skills, that everything that we've talked about today, they don't develop these things on their own because the education system is failing these people. And it could be intentional, I don't know, or it could be that the people running the education systems just are not very competent. And that's why you see why parents send their kids to private schools, because private schools are outside of that government education system. You see why parents even homeschool. So homeschooled children continuously, they homeschooled children continue to have much higher rates of graduation for college, for high school, than even private school kids, definitely more than public school kids. So I think that's a serious limiting factor holding people back. And I think another factor that's holding people back from keeping them from being their best is social media. I think when you nowadays adults, they go on social media and they see what all these other people are doing. Some people get inspiration from it. Some people get envious, almost jealous. They get envious or jealous from it, and it holds them back. So if you're a certain, I know people who are my age and they see, oh, all these other people my age have this house and they drive this car and they have this job and they work from home and I have to go in and work this crummy job. That actually becomes a limiting factor for many of these people, because it's almost like people get more depressed when they see that, when they should be getting inspired, but they get more depressed instead.
It's because they're comparing themselves to other people, and then that just and you're always going to see like yourself in a negative light and see the best. Like people always show their best in social media. They're never going to show their average actual life, you know?
That's true also, but at the same time, the other people on social media might be doing a lot better. Who cares? It's a country where you can, if the guy on social media, I guarantee, or the girl on social media, they worked hard to get to where they were and they put in the work and the effort. I can tell you I certainly have.
Yeah, what you're saying about social media is true, but especially like a lot of, when what I meant was when they put the pictures over there, they're usually showing their
I
best
know.
life. But
Yep.
a lot of people like they're comparing themselves to that best part of them, and then they're like you should never compare yourself to others. You should try to be the best version of yourself. That's what I was
Look,
getting at.
we're all guilty of it. I take a picture, I'm photoshopping that picture and putting filters and doing whatnot, cropping it. I have a video, I take the video, I put in the good part of the video and I take out all the bad stuff. So I'm putting the best up there. We're all guilty of it.
No, yeah, but it's true. Like it's like our generation is almost living these virtual lives than actually living the actual life.
It's very, and look, that's, I brought up earlier, social media can be a bad thing. And I've said that probably two or three times over the course of this interview. And it's another nugget that people need to live real physical lives. I'm saying this as somebody who works in tech, who works from home, who hasn't worked in an office in 13 years, 12 years. And people have to, this is why when I parent my kids, like you're getting out there, not because of the crappy public education system of the you're getting out there because you're going to be meeting people and seeing things that you won't get behind a screen. And many of those things are going to be bad, and that's okay because that's part of learning, that's part of life. I make them get out of the house and play with other kids, and they're in baseball and tennis and all the, you need to get out of the house. You cannot sit at home. I see teenage boys nowadays. It's gotten really bad. This was not the case when I was a teenager, but teenage boys, they just stay in their room and they're on their computer and their devices the entire time that they're at home. They won't even leave their bedroom. That's not the life you want to live.
No, I mean totally. I think if you're like the 1980s person or the 1990s, like you'd realize that there's this massive transition where people used to like play outside, and then over the period of 10 years, like they just got technology and social media and all that, and there's this transition where people started staying indoors more, and it's something that I noticed as I was growing up.
It's bad. And look, the even the older people, my parents can be guilty of it too, where So to say, oh, you know what? I'm watching something on YouTube I'm just gonna stay in today and finish watching this thing. Like somebody sent me something on WhatsApp, some long video, let's just watch this. So it's all of us. It affects all of us. But our parents at least grew up in a time where that wasn't an option, and now they're basically playing catch up. These kids are being born into the world where literally, my son is born and I have a phone recording the video. The first thing he sees coming out of the womb is a phone. Literally.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's the new world we're living in. But Naresh, I wanted to ask you about your book. I know you wrote this book, from nobody to best-selling author, how to write, publish, and market your book. So can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about this book and the premise of what made you write it?
I wrote the book because I've written 5 books, and I felt like I had a lot to share when it comes to writing a book because I believe everyone has a book inside of them. So the book walks people through on how they can go about writing, the easiest way to write. This was obviously before GPT. I still recommend you write your own stuff, and Amazon's really cracking down on GPT content as well. But that's the basis of the book. It's only about 50 to 60 pages, super easy to digest. And like you said, you talked about the whole deductive, reductive way that I've done this interview. That's how the book is also. It's really like a guide. Every chapter says, how to write the book, and it gives you a very nice cheat sheet on how to go about writing it or how to market the book after it or how to actually publish the book. And it gives you all these cheat sheets on how you can go about doing this stuff.
That is awesome. I would definitely recommend, anybody that's listening to definitely take a look at your books, because there's like a lot of wealth of knowledge in all of them. Especially, like, I was even looking at the podcast Nonomics, the book
Yeah.
of podcasting to make you millions, and I found that title very interesting.
Yeah, that book came out 10 years ago. It's a little outdated, but still very relevant, still selling well. And I'll even do this. I'll give your listeners, if they go to my website, krishmediamarketing.com, Krish mediamarketing.com, contact me through there. I think my email address is there. Contact me through there and ask for your free book. I will send you either Podcastnomics or From Nobody to the Best-Selling Author, free of charge.
That is amazing, Naresh, and I'm really glad that you made that offer. And so, in order to contact you, they can contact you in your website. And is there any other way can the audience can contact you?
They can get me on X. I'm at xnareshx, or they can follow me on Instagram. Just type in my name. You'll find me there, and you can get all my books on Amazon. The paperbacks, audiobooks, Kindles, hardbacks, they're all on Amazon.
That is awesome, Naresh. And Naresh, I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on this podcast and share your wisdom, because the way you succeeded in your life, like, there's a mindset, there's a thought process. And if we all adopt that thought process, we will also succeed in what we do. It's all about thinking and acting in a certain way. And I really appreciate you sharing this wisdom with me and the listeners.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure doing this interview.
And I want to conclude this episode by telling my fellow extraordinary Americans that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets us free. Also, remember that inflation is diluting your purchasing power, which in turn increases financial bondage. The practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power and invest in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Lastly, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.